Hi folks, today I'm going to be taking a look at Escape the Dark Sector from Themebourne. You might know their previous release, which was Escape the Dark Castle. That was set in a bit of a fantasy universe. This is the next game that they've produced, and this is obviously set in more of a sci-fi universe. Essentially the same kind of game, but with a few bells and whistles added. Now, the theme and the objective of Escape the Dark Sector is that you and your crew have been captured aboard a big containment ship, and you're trying to escape from your cell, find your ship and get away. You do this by playing through the different chapters of the story, attacking enemies, defending yourself from danger, finding items and equipment which might help you on your quest, and then eventually fighting the main boss at the end, and should you defeat him, then you can escape. I'll start here by showing you what you get inside of the box. So everything you see here, except this really nice neoprene mat, comes in the box. This neoprene mat is an additional purchase. It is rather nice. It kind of has all of the different locations of where to store things for your dice and for your mission deck and discard piles, and it just kind of adds to the theme of the game. So included is there is an Escape the Dark Sector rulebook. As with everything in this game, it is very black and white, which just adds to the old school theme of it. There are about 25-26 pages of rules in here, and you can play the game either in solo mode or up to 4 players, and the game plays in about 45 minutes. You get a book of medical records here, which basically is where you track the damage that you take during your story. There's a place to write your name here. You track your damage, and also if you heal up at any point, you can recover your health from here. You get a pack of 4 pencils. I would recommend using the pencils. It just means that you can rub these out from these stat sheets and use them again, rather than having to buy more of these. There are a number of different dice that are used in this game as well, and I'll explain what they're all for. The dice in this top corner, these white ones, are basically your ranged combat dice. Here, the ones with the bullets on here are your ballistic dice. So if you're shooting like a machine gun or something in ranged combat, that's the dice that you will roll. There are these with the lightning symbols. These are your energy dice. If you're shooting something like a ray gun or a laser gun, those are the ones that you will roll. And then there are a couple of blast dice if you have any blast weapons that you find along the way. Next up are these small black dice here. These are the hit dice. These are basically to see if you take any damage from opponents in ranged combat. If you are doing things like hiding on the flank, you take a hit roll, and if your enemy is shooting against you as well, you roll one of those hit roll dice. These bigger dice here are called the chapter dice, and these are basically have 2 of each symbol on each side, and the 3 symbols that are on them are this fist symbol, which basically represents might, this eyeball symbol here, which represents cunning, and this star symbol here, which also represents wisdom. These are used to basically to fill up this block along the bottom here to show how much damage you need to inflict upon your enemy. There are a couple of cards here which are mission cards, mission failed and mission accomplished. Should you fail or accomplish your mission, you will flip over that and it will just round off the story with a nice little kind of bit of text. Then here you have item cards. There are 24 item cards in the deck, and these range from ranged combat weapons, close combat weapons, or different kinds of equipment and items that can help you to do things like heal up or to manipulate the dice during the game. Along the top here there is a couple of kind of quick rule reference cards which help you out, save you going back to the rule book for anything you may not be sure about. You then have 4 starting item cards. This tends to be what happens when you first start your mission. It asks you to draw a starting item, so those ones come in there. Also here you have these the cybernetic implant cards, and this will become more relevant when I come to show you the crew members and stuff. But when you choose a crew member, you can choose 1 cybernetic implant to put into your crew member, and these basically give you some kind of manipulation of the game. It's like a little sort of special skill which helps to sort of kind of theme out your particular crew member. So the crew members here, I'll show you those in more detail when we actually come to choose our crew members. But each crew member also comes with a crew member dice, and again I'll explain those in a little bit. The rest of the cards here are basically your chapter cards of how you build up your mission deck. And what I'll do now is I'll show you how to build a mission deck, which is probably the easiest way to show them. So we start here. There are 5 different boss cards to choose from. So all you would do is shuffle these cards up and then choose one to place on the bottom of the deck. This is obviously the last card that you will face during your mission. Then you have your Act 3 cards. The game is split into 3 acts, and essentially Act 1 being slightly easier to deal with, Act 2 being slightly more difficult, and Act 3 being a little bit harder again. So again, there are 16 chapter cards here. So you would shuffle these up and again just deal 4 cards onto the chapter, onto the mission deck, I should say. We have again chapter 2. You can see here with the little blips on the radar. 3 on Act 3, 2 on Act 1, and 1 there on Act 1. 1 there on Act 1. So we put 4 of those cards again into the mission deck. And then exactly the same as well with the Act 1 cards. Lastly, we have 3 of these starting cards, and this is basically the first one that you flip over, and this is almost just tells you how to start the game. So we put 1 of those at the top, and that is essentially your setup for the main part of the game. The only thing left to do now is to choose your crew members. So as you can see here, if I split some of these out, you can see there are 6 different crew members. There's not too much information actually on these cards. Essentially what it tells us is that it gives us a name, a very nice kind of old school black and white artwork, and then in the bottom right hand corner you will see there are some statistics. There is the might statistic, the cunning statistic, and the wisdom statistic, and the height of these bars basically tells you how many sides of the crew dice hold that symbol. So for example with Lieutenant Tanner, if I can find her card there, she has 1 side which has the might symbol on it. She has 2 sides which have the cunning symbol on it, and then she has 3 sides which has the wisdom effect. And when you're rolling these either in close combat or to do different kind of skill tests, you have to roll specific symbols. So obviously the more sides that have it, the more likely that's going to be. Sides also have a particular side with a double on it and a shield around it. This is again used in close combat, and this would mean that it would deal 2 hits, for example, of that particular thing, and the shield around it would mean that you would be defended in that particular round of combat. So what we'll do is we'll choose a couple of these. We'll just take Lieutenant Abbott and Lieutenant Miller here, and I'll show you an example, a couple of turns, just to show you how the game plays. So give me a second to set up, and then we'll get right on. So as you can see here, we are set up and ready to go. I've chosen Lieutenant Abbott there, and we've given him enhanced reflexes, which is whenever you roll 1 or more hit dice, you may re-roll each of them once, applying only the second result. So that gives me 2 bites of the cherry to kind of try and defend myself. And for Lieutenant Miller, we have given him advanced targeting. Once per round of ranged combat, you may re-roll 1 of your ammo dice, applying only the second result. So again, this is giving me a bit of a second bite of the cherry to try and attack the enemies. So we start by flipping over the first card, and we'll say Lieutenant Abbott is basically entering in here. So as you can see from the cards, I didn't want to show too much from the initial kind of examples. I don't want to spoil too much. But you can see that the cards are basically laid out with a nice piece of black and white artwork, very reminiscent of kind of fighting fantasy books. There's a bit of flavour text, and then it's whatever you need to do. After weeks confined to the detention block, you finally break free of your cell. Outside, the lighting flickers intermittently, and the burning stench of recent laser fire hangs in the air. Beside a slaughtered guard, a weapon locker has been smashed open. You load up on what little gear and ammunition remains. So that's a bit of flavour text there of how the story is starting. It then says draw a starting weapon card for each member of the crew now, and draw a single item card. So we come to these, which are our starting weapons. We would shuffle these up and then deal 1 to each player. We won't need the starting weapons anymore. We also won't need the cybernetics anymore. So basically what we've got here is that Lieutenant Abbott has a ray gun. On the gun here, it will tell you basically how much ammo that the gun holds and how many pieces of ammo it will fire. With bigger weapons, they hold more ammo, and sometimes you get the choice of the number of bursts. It also tells you that if there is kind of like a warning symbol or something on the side, and will tell you what might happen. In this instance, if we get this kind of blast symbol around the lightning flash, it says basically it still causes a hit. However, the weapon overheats and you'll lose 1 health point. So we've got to be careful that doesn't overheat. So you place 1 of the ammo dice on there because it says 1 ammo. And we have Lieutenant Miller here has a slug pistol, which takes 1 ammo of ballistic dice. It can fire 1, and it also has a symbol on it, which basically is like a sort of like a flaming bullet, which means it causes 2 points of 2 sort of hits. But it also has a warning symbol on it, and in this case, the weapon jams. Essentially, nothing happens. It doesn't fire a bullet. It basically just does nothing. We now need to draw a single item card. In this instance, we have unmarked pills. It said discard to restore 1 health point to your crew member. So I think we'll give that to Lieutenant Abbott there. Essentially, you have slots to hold 4 pieces of equipment. Some of the cards in this item deck will be printed in landscape format, and if they are landscape, they take up 2 slots in your out of your 4. So you just have to. It's a little bit about hand management and understanding when to use certain items to create space to take up new weapons. You can also switch weapons between players. Next it then says you hear footsteps approaching. There is no time to lose. You must find your ship at all costs. You steal yourselves before slipping away into the gloom. Turn the first chapter card now. Now, because Lieutenant Abbott, we're all at full health, which is 12 points of health here. He has some way to kind of restore some health. So I think we'll have Lieutenant Abbott enters the fight. So we've got some kind of tentacle monster coming through the doors here. It says, as the doors ahead hiss open, slimy tentacles fly out and seize you, dragging you into the dark beyond. Now, because it says you, it's whoever opened the door. So it says you lose 1 health point and must immediately begin close combat alone for 1 round. Then, as a group, choose 1 option. So instantly, Lieutenant Abbott loses 1 point of health. This game is absolutely brutal. If you remember fighting fantasy books, you will remember just how difficult they are. It's not meant to be easy. You won't win every game, you won't complete it, but it's meant to be a more narrative story mode. So it says first he has to have 1 round of close combat on his own. So let me show you how close combat works. First up, along the bottom of the opponent card here, it has a number of these dice symbols, these chapter dice. So first it has 2 of the might symbols. So we place 2 might dice or might symbols into the health pool. It has 1 of the cunning, so we pop that in. It then has 1 of the wisdom, so we pop that in. And then there is like what looks like a meeple symbol. That means that you roll the number of dice however many crew members are in play. So for this we have 2 crew members, we roll the 2 dice, and we have 2 cunning symbols. So that is basically the amount of damage that we need to take off the enemy in order to defeat them. In ranged combat, basically a hit just means you can take off 1 dice. However, in close combat, you have to roll these exact symbols to remove them. This is where the different stats on the different crew members become important. So a roll of combat. So we take Lieutenant Abbott's combat dice. We roll it. And he has rolled the 2 fist symbol plus the shield. That means that he can take away 2 fists from the damage pool, and he doesn't take any damage because of that shield. Ordinarily what would happen, we would look at the card here and it says it hits basically 1 point of damage in close combat. So I would instantly take 1 point of damage there normally, but that shield there basically saved me taking any damage. Now he's taken 1 round of close combat on his own. We read the rest of the card. It says, as a group, we can then choose what to do. It says we can evade, so all members of the crew lose 1 health point, pulling you from the grip of the killer organism, and turn the next chapter card, or we can attack and continue the close combat with all members of the crew. You'll also see at the bottom of the card here, there is a number 3 where on top of some cards. That means if we defeat this enemy, we will be able to draw 3 cards from the item pool. Now, you will lose some health points while you're fighting against the enemies. However, getting items to enable you to battle against bigger bosses and things or bigger monsters as the fight goes on is quite important. So at this early stage, I think we're going to fight this monster, and at least I can show you how combat works. What I haven't explained as well is there's also another couple of cards here. We have a medical drone, which means that during combat, one person can basically call in the medical drone and will heal them 1 point of health. You can only use it once in a round of combat with one particular chapter card. As soon as it's being used, you have to flip it over, and it basically means it's recharging and it's not available for this round. The other option as well is to flank the enemy, and basically what you would normally do is you would come to the side of it, you'd flank it, it kind of sees you moving, so you automatically have to roll a hit dice to see if it hits you or not. But then at the end of combat, you get to do a flank attack, and essentially it means that you can attack the enemy without taking any hits yourself. And again, once you've used that, you flip it over and it's unavailable because the enemy won't be kind of tricked twice. It won't be available until you flip another chapter card. So how combat works, we roll these 2 dice. You roll all crew member dice at the same time and then choose how to use them. So we've got Lieutenant Miller has rolled one of the cunning symbols, so we can remove a cunning dice. Lieutenant Abbott has again rolled the 2 fists plus the shield. Unfortunately, there are no fists in this list here, so basically no might symbols. So it means that basically he hasn't done any damage, but he has rolled the shield, which means he's defended himself. Lieutenant Miller, however, needs to take 1 point of damage. So essentially what you do is you come to the next line across and just track it across. Again, we roll again now. Lieutenant Miller has rolled the might symbol. There are no might dice, as we said before, and Lieutenant Abbott has rolled the cunning symbol, so we remove one of the cunning dice and both players take a point of damage. Now, what you can do as well is you can choose to basically hide. You can basically sort of sit out a round of combat. If your crew member's taking a little bit of damage, you might not want to risk them this fight. And obviously, as you have more crew members, this can also be helpful to kind of share things out. But in this instance, we're not doing too bad at the moment. We're just going to continue with the fight. So, Lieutenant Miller and Lieutenant Abbott have both rolled the cunning symbol. There's one cunning left, so we can remove that one. However, neither of them rolled the shield, so they don't defend themselves. They both take 1 point of damage. Now, what I think we're going to do here, just to kind of show the example, is that basically Lieutenant Miller only has one side of his dice that has the wisdom symbol. So Lieutenant Miller is just going to basically go into hiding for this round, and Lieutenant Abbott is going to try and see. He has 3 sides of his dice which have the cunning symbol. So we'll see if we can get one. Again, we've missed. However, we do have the shield, so he doesn't take any damage. I think we'll do the same thing again for another round of combat. This time he's rolled the might symbol again. Takes some damage this time. So I think we'll continue doing that. Eventually there, like Lieutenant Abbott has basically rolled that symbol. He has killed the monster basically. He doesn't take any damage because in this instance he's killed the monster before it had a chance to hit back. And then we draw 3 of these cards, these item cards. 1, 2, 3, and we'll have a look and see what we've got here. So we've got Alien Sludge, which says discard to restore 1 health point. So I think we'll give that one to Lieutenant Miller. And then we have a battery cannon and we have a battle rifle. Both are ballistic weapons. And they both basically, one has 3 ammo and can fire 3 ammo. One has 2 ammo max and can fire either 1 or 2, so has a variable rate. So what we'll do is we'll split them across the two players. At this point, it's kind of a bit of a lull in the game. We can do a number of things at this stage. We can basically flip back any of the medical drones or the flank attacks. We can use any of our item cards. We reload our weapons. So in this instance, I think I'm going to use the health points on both of those, and we will heal our crew members 1 point of health. Put these back on their cards, and then we'll get ready to go back into action. So this time, I think we'll have Lieutenant Miller will go in first. So again, we flip the card. Again, some really nice artwork. Some differences on this card now. Again, we've got the health points along the bottom. It tells you how many item cards you will turn if you successfully defeat them. Here, the symbol which has the crosshairs is how many points of damage you will take if the opponent hits you in ranged combat. And around the blast symbol there is basically how many points of damage you will take if he hits you in close combat. Down the right hand side here as well, it also shows you how much damage your weapons will do. If you hit him with one of your ballistic bullets, it will do 1 point of damage to him. If you hit him with an energy weapon, it will do 2 points of damage to him. And if you hit him with a blast weapon, it will do 3. We don't have any blast weapons, so we won't be doing that this turn. So blasting through his cell wall from inside, a mysterious traveller steps out into the passage ahead. His arm cannon crackles with energy as he calmly scans you, evidently assessing your threat level. As a group, you must choose one option. You can evade, make a peace offering, discard an item, and then turn the next chapter card, or you can attack, take him down, begin combat. This is what I mean about some opponents you may just want to try and skip past. It might not be worth wasting any energy on it. And especially as we've got some decent weapons now, that might be a particular choice. But I want to show you how ranged combat works. So we're going to crack on and do that. So ranged combat, that's what we're going to do. So first up, we put the dice into place for his for what his life is, his life sort of energy. Again, it says the meeple symbol there. So we roll 2 dice for 2 crew members, and we add those to the pool. So he has 6 hit points worth of damage. So I'll show you how different things work now. Essentially, somebody has to always shoot in range combat. If none of the crew members shoot in range combat, it automatically forces close combat to happen. Once you enter close combat, you can't come back out to range combat again because you're basically into a close combat fight at that point. So what I think we'll do is, if we, for example, I need to put the ammo as well onto these particular weapons. So this one gets 3 bullets, and this one gets 2. So I think we have enough weapons here to be able to kind of have a few rounds of combat. So what I'm going to do is, I think, just to show you some examples, I'm going to put Lieutenant Abbott into the flank. He needs to roll a hit dice to see if he basically gets spotted going into, and he does get spotted. So he would normally take 2 points of damage. However, remembering his cybernetic implant, says whenever you roll 1 or more hit dice, you may re-roll each of them once again, applying the second result. So let's have a second try of it and see if we can get a blank. We didn't, so he takes 2 points of damage. 1, 2. So he is now flanked, basically ready to shoot after the combat. We have Lieutenant Miller here, who he is going to shoot 2 bursts from his battle rifle. So you roll the ammo dice along with a hit dice, and we roll those. So he has hit him twice, which causes 2 points of damage, and he has also been hit himself. So he takes 2 points of damage himself, 1, 2, but we also take away 2 points of damage here. Now you can, because we're not rolling against symbols, you can choose which ones you want to take. And in this instance, I think we'll just take out these cunning ones. Okay. Now that weapon is now out of ammo, so he will have to reload it before he fires that weapon again. Lieutenant Abbott is now in the flank, so he actually gets to shoot now. He's going to shoot his battery cannon here. He doesn't need to roll a hit dice to see what happens, so he's just rolling straight dice. And unfortunately, he has rolled 2 of those symbols, which basically means that the weapon jams. If a weapon jams, it ignores any successful hits. Basically, nothing happens, no bullets come out of the gun. You don't need to reload it. It's basically just been a jam. So unfortunately, that flank attack didn't quite work out as we would have planned. So we flip over the flank card. It means that the flank is not available now for the rest of this round, and we come into the next round of combat. So I think what to do is just to kind of show you how things work. I think we will put Lieutenant Abbott to activate the medical drone, so he doesn't take part in this combat here. We have Lieutenant Miller, who's going to fire his slug pistol. So he rolls his pistol against with 1 hit dice, and he causes 1 point of damage, which we will take away 1 of these. But he also takes hit himself, so he loses 2 points of damage. So that is the end of that round. Lieutenant Abbott basically now heals up 1 point because he called in the drone. So he heals up 1 point, and we're ready for the next round of combat. Now Lieutenant Miller doesn't have any sort of range dice that he can use this round, so he is going to use his action to reload his weapon, and Lieutenant Abbott is basically going to shoot his battery cannon again. So we roll that together. Again, he's rolled a hit dice. We can try and do that with his cybernetic implant. He still takes 2 points of damage. 1, 2, and again his weapon has jammed, so nothing happens this time, unfortunately. We come to another round of combat. This time I think Lieutenant Miller is going to reload his slug pistol, while Lieutenant Abbott is going to shoot with his laser weapon. Nope, we'll roll that one again because it was cocked. So he's hit with his laser weapon. Again, he can re-roll his cybernetic implant, so he doesn't take any damage this turn. And remember, the laser weapon causes 2 points of damage, so we remove 2 of these dice, and he doesn't take any damage this turn. However, unfortunately now, Lieutenant Abbott is out of ammo, so he is going to use this next combat round to reload, and we will get Lieutenant Miller this turn to shoot his battle rifle. Oops, we'll re-roll that one because it's cocked there. So he has caused 2 points of damage there, and he's taken a hit himself. So in range combat, even if so for example, he's taken two hits, he's going to kill the monster, but essentially the enemy there has shot at him at the same time, so he still has to take those 2 points of damage. We're at the end of that round. Everybody reloads their weapons. We draw the 3 cards as well to see what item cards we've got. Here we've got a chrono bomb, which basically any number. After rolling any number or type of dice, you can discard to re-roll them all, applying only the second result. We've got a ranged combat stun grenade, which basically disorientates the enemy, and we've got a power stim here as well, which means we can change the result of a dice to might. So these are all useful. However, we've only got 1 space left. Now, to show you the kind of things we can do, I could get rid of the slug pistol and put a couple of items in there. And what I think we'll do is we'll put the chrono bomb into here. We'll put the stun grenade in here, and we'll discard this last one. We then flip these back to the start, and we choose who goes next, and we flip another card. And essentially, that's how the game works. That's how you play through it. You keep working through these cards, deciding what to do, making choices, and trying to defeat your enemies, and eventually defeat the boss and escape the dark sector. So, what do I think of the game? What's my thoughts, and would I recommend it to you? I like the theme of the game. The black and white art is very kind of old school feeling. As I said before, definitely has kind of reminiscent of the old fighting fantasy books. It might not be for everybody, but if you kind of got that old school itch, this will be right up your street. The game is very random. At the end of the day, you are drawing random cards and you are rolling dice, and there's not always that many different ways to mitigate it. There are more ways to mitigate it as you kind of start to draw items, but in the early part of the game, there's not a lot of ways to mitigate it other than your cybernetics. So it can feel like you don't you don't really kind of have a lot of say in what happens. It does change as the game goes on, however. If this was some kind of competitive player versus player game, I think that would be a huge negative. However, in this, it's a very narrative. It's an RPG experience. It's just building a story. It's not really about sort of success and fail. It's more about creating a story on the tabletop. So I think for this instance, it works really well. It can feel a little bit grindy because, I mean, as you saw there through combat, it's a case of just rolling dice, and sometimes if you miss a few times, or if your enemy just keeps hitting you, and you're losing energy, lots of damage, lots of health points, it can feel a little bit grindy at times. So if that's the kind of thing that you don't really like, I'd maybe give this one a miss as well. But to be fair, as I mentioned before, it's very much a narrative experience. You're basically telling a story. So if you can get past that enemy with 1 health point left and escape, that is a story. That's a story in itself, as opposed to actually I didn't win. The games don't last that long, so you don't feel kind of that you're punished too badly. It's not like you've had to play for an hour and play for like 2 or 3 hours and then you've died kind of thing. They're relatively fast playing, and if you die early on, you can kind of just kind of shuffle it and start again. Setup time is really quick. Card quality and component quality is really good. The only other negative I can really think of as well, or downside, is that because it is quite repetitive, it might not be the kind of game you want to play again and again and again. It's probably fun to play for maybe kind of once or twice, and then that's maybe enough. It's certainly more interesting with more people, because then you're building up a bit of a story. There's a bit of chat around the table, makes things a bit more exciting. If you're playing on your own, I can imagine after maybe 2 or 3 games, that might be enough, and you kind of put it back on the shelf for a little bit and come back to it later. But overall, if you're looking for a narrative-driven kind of RPG-light sort of dice game, this will be right up your street. If you love the old school fighting fantasy stuff, if you're a fan of Escape the Dark Castle, again, this will be right up your street. But if high amounts of randomness and kind of grindy dice rolling is just not for you, then maybe this is one to kind of pass over. I quite enjoyed it. I don't think it's something I would necessarily play very, very often, but it's certainly something I would sort of play with my kids, play with the younger kid. Like my little one is only 4, but being able to tell him like some kind of sci-fi story and he's rolling the dice, I'm sure he'd really enjoy it, and it's something we could play together too. So yeah, I think I'd certainly recommend it anyway, but it needs to be right up your street. It needs to be the kind of game that you'd enjoy. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.